This race was the reason why we love short track racing. What a crazy race today was for the first real short track race of the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series season, and it broke a streak today. Martin Truex Jr. becomes the first two-time winner of the season, but his win did not go so smoothly. A lot of stuff happened, especially in stage 3. So as everybody knows, this race was supposed to take place on Saturday night, and it did. I think for the first 40 some odd laps, it was Denny Hamlin out in front, but then rain started coming into the area and it pushed the race back to Sunday afternoon / Sunday night or Sunday evening. Now Daniel Suarez, he was a driver that had to start at the rear of the field due to his crew chief Travis Mack having a problem with the ballast, an improper ballast on the car. As a result, he had to be ejected and Suarez had to start at the rear. Also, Tyler Reddick, Corey LaJoie, and James Davidson also had to start at the rear due to either unapproved adjustments and things like that. So when we restarted today on Sunday evening, we started out with Denny Hamlin out in front. Then you had Blaney, Elliott, Logano, and Truex, the top 5. And just like in any typical NASCAR race, when you have a rain delay for so long, it's not going to take long for a wreck to happen just after you restart the race. Lap 50, it happened again. Kurt Busch spins after getting tapped by Eric Jones. Kurt Busch had a very eventful day. He had a real fast car, didn't get the result he wanted, but he had a real fast car and a very roller coaster day. On lap 75, Ryan Blaney would then take over, and it was around then where we started to get an idea of who at least, the contenders were going to be. Hamlin, his car was going to be strong on the short run, while Blaney's car was going to take over on the long run. And Blaney will go on to win stage number 1. He had Hamlin second, Truex third, Elliott, Larson, and Byron 4th to 6th, Bowman 7th, Keselowski 8th, Logano 9th, and Christopher Bell 10th. Now Daniel Suarez, who started at the rear, a little update on him. He worked his way up to 20th before then reporting a loose wheel and had to give up that spot. Now, I want to give you an idea on that top 10 on stage number 1. All of the Penske drivers, Blaney, Logano, Keselowski, all 4 Hendrick drivers, Elliott, Larson, Bowman, and Byron, and all Joe Gibbs drivers, including Kyle Busch, who finished 11th. All of them were top 11. Stewart-Haas Racing, on the other hand, the highest driver that finished in stage number 1, I believe, was Kevin Harvick. I think 19th or 20th. And he was on verge of going a lap down. SHR, I don't know what exactly happened between last year and this year, but they have dropped the ball tremendously. I know NASCAR made a rule change between, this year and last year, but my goodness. Think about it. Penske's running good. All 4 cars at Hendrick is running good. Gibbs had a pretty good race today in terms of all 4 cars being up there in the top 10. Stewart-Haas was horrible. Even Fenway and RCR were running better than they were. Stage number 2, nothing happened in terms of big moments. Hamlin, just like what happened in stage 1. Hamlin took off, led the first 40 some odd laps, then Blaney with that long run speed would take over on lap 47, and Blaney would go on to win stage number 2, but that was after a 1-lap shootout after a crash that took place late in stage number 2. Blaney would just edge out Hamlin to win that stage. Second is Hamlin, third Truex, fourth Bowman, fifth Elliott, sixth Keselowski, 7th Byron, 8th Reddick, 9th Kyle Busch, and Kurt Busch in 10th. So Kurt obviously rebounded very nicely. Like I said, he had a fast car. Now, with stage number 1 and stage 2, there wasn't a lot of moments, but there was a lot of good, solid racing. A lot of being and banging, pushing and shoving, a lot of 3-wide racing we saw in the mid-pack. It was a really fun race. Then we got to the end of stage 3, and that is when chaos ensued. Up to this point, it had been a very solid race. Stage 3 took the intensity from probably 3 or 4 out of 10 to a 9. So when stage 3 began, Blaney would start in 12th because after that final caution in stage number 2, a lot of drivers pitted, setting up for the final stage, while Blaney just wanted the stage points. So another caution flew shortly thereafter on lap 292 for Cody Ware for the second time. This was the second time he spun. He brought out a caution earlier in the race, I believe in stage number 1 if I'm not mistaken, but that set up the top 6 to stay out. Bubba Wallace, Ryan Newman, Daniel Suarez, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chris Buescher, and Eric Almirola. Austin Dillon, who also had a really fast car, was moving his way up very sharply inside to even the top 5, I believe, late in stage number 2 and at the beginning of stage 3. but he was penalized for pitting outside his box and had to start at the rear. And on the restart, Bubba Wallace, who stayed out in front, would lead the first 20 laps before William Byron, who had fresher tires, would then take over. Then with under 180 to go, Kyle Busch, I don't know if he had a problem or what. I believe on the broadcast it did say he had a problem, but he just lost it, spins by himself in turns 1 and 2 to bring out another caution. Then shortly after that, on a restart, 1 lap later, Newman spins and causes out another caution. Suarez then also got into Keselowski and spun him. That was before the Newman wreck. I didn't go over all the cautions. I just went over a select few that, that I talked about with the big name drivers. But to give you an idea on just how chaotic it was at the beginning, the first 2 stages had 6 cautions in total. The final stage, up to that point, with just around 170 to go, had already 7 cautions. I just pointed out, I think, 2 or 3, but there was a lot more cautions. Just everyone was just running into each other, taking each other out, spinning each other, a lot of beating and banging. It was just chaotic. Now, Alex Bowman, who had a really strong run today, as well as everyone at Hendrick Motorsports, was running 4th when he reported a vibration, and on a scale of how bad it was, from a scale of 9 to 10, and he had to pit. Now, this was right before lap 370 when Ross Chastain gets into the 2 car very hard, who then sends the 2 into the 43 and spins him. Keselowski didn't like that, and I believe on the caution laps, Keselowski got up next to Chastain and gave him like a little finger. I don't know if it was a middle finger or just pointing with the index finger, but yeah, some drivers, had got their tempers flared up just a little bit. And after that, Chastain crashed with 123 laps to go. Ross Chastain, who brought out that caution, stayed out along with Christopher Bell to go back to green. Chastain washed up in turns 3 and 4, and that created this 3-wide log jam of a mess. You had, I think, 2 or 3 rows of 3-wide action, and then out of nowhere, Ryan Blaney, like I said, he started back in 12th at the beginning of stage 3. Somehow, magically, he's already back in 3rd, and he just started 7th when that restart came out. In 1 lap, went from 7th to 3rd, but he was nowhere near the leaders. When that all happened, because Chastain was out in front when he stacked the whole field up, Bell and Hamlin got out to a 1.34 second lead ahead of Blaney. Now, Hamlin had fresher tires, so it didn't take long before Hamlin took the lead from Bell. And that is when the big one would take place. On the back straightaway, Chris Buescher and Kyle Busch, they hit each other and spin in the middle of the pack, creating a huge traffic jam. Bowman, McDowell, DiBenedetto, Priest, Alfredo, Custer, Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, Justin Haley, and Daniel Suarez. And I'm pretty sure I'm missing a few names, but a lot of drivers were involved. There was even a moment where Daniel Suarez's car caught on fire, and then Suarez got out of his car and threw a water bottle at William Byron. Now, the reason why was because just 1 or 2 laps prior to that, William Byron just drove into the back end of Suarez. Suarez goes up the track, smacks the wall, and that put Suarez in that situation for him to be caught up in that traffic jam mess. So Suarez was not happy. Then the race got put under a red flag. And I just want to point out, the broadcast then cuts to this little kid who I think he's a freaking legend for this, has this picture of Joey Logano. It was beautiful. It was amazing. Look, if you're a Logano fan, who cares? I don't care if you're a Logano fan, but that was hilarious to me. That kid is a legend. I don't care what y'all say. So he got back to green right away, and it was around then where you could tell the aggression is going to start to pick up. Truex and Logano, they make contact. Logano gets into Truex, who makes an unbelievable save. I don't know how he did not turn that car, but he managed to keep going straight. And then things started to settle down just a little bit. So you had Hamlin leading, 2nd was Blaney, and 3rd was Truex. That was the top 3, but it was spread out just a little bit. Not by much, I believe within a second between the top 3. In the meantime, you had new contenders in the top 10. Harvick, who on stage 1 was nearly a lap down. His car was so bad, he's now back inside the top 10 to 7th. How about Bubba Wallace? Top 15, top 16 for majority of the race. He's now in 8th. That caution, because remember, he stayed out on old tires, and all those cautions kept him in the loop with the rest of the field, and he basically was able to go from 20th or to outside the top 15 to now having a top 10 finish possibly. And also Ryan Newman, whose car looked like a mess, was involved in numerous accidents. He was in the top 10. In the meantime, when that took place, back up front, Ryan Blaney, with that long run speed coming into play, was starting to run down Denny Hamlin. But Hamlin this time was actually able to hold off Blaney. Then the caution came out for the 15th time with 48 to go, and I'm pretty sure Cody Ware was involved in that one. When this happened, pit stops ensued for the final time. Truex was able to get out first. Blaney would lose 3 spots, but to make matters worse, he was penalized for taking equipment out of his stall, brought out an air gun away from the pit stall, which is a penalty, and got sent to the rear, and that ultimately ended his chances of winning. So now it seemed like the only drivers that were going to have a shot at winning was Truex and Hamlin. Hamlin, with the short run speed with 43 to go on the restart, takes off. But as the lap started to wind down, Truex started to pull Hamlin back in. Now this was typical. I mean, we knew Hamlin's car was not meant for the long run, but we didn't think that Truex was going to be one to step up to the plate. We all thought that if anyone was going to challenge for Hamlin, it would be Blaney. But Truex and the team, they made some adjustments, and he was able to run down Hamlin, and they were battling side by side, and you could tell Truex had the better car and was putting the pressure on Hamlin for numerous laps. While they were battling, that allows for the 3rd place driver to come in, and that was Chase Elliott. Remember, Chase Elliott's a former winner here. He won the last time the Cup Series was at Martinsville in the fall of 2020. He was now back in the mix, and all of a sudden you had 3 cars under a blanket. But finally, with 14 laps to go, Martinsville Jr. would then take the lead and clear Hamlin, and was set on sail for there. Chase Elliott would then eventually get by Denny Hamlin for 2nd place with 6 to go, but by that time, Truex was already out to, I believe, a 1.1 or 1.2 second lead. And Martinsville Jr. would go onto victory lane for the 3rd time at Martinsville. 3 wins in the last 4 races at Martinsville. For a guy, think about it, for Truex, he started out his career 0 for 80 or something like that on short tracks, and now has won 3 of the last 4 races at Martinsville. What a turnaround for Truex. Not only that, he becomes the first 2-time winner of 2021 and breaks the streak of different first-time winners to start out the season. So let's take a look at the unofficial results. They are to your left of the screen. So Truex wins, Hamlin in 2nd, Elliott 3rd, Byron 4th, Larson in 5th, Logano 6th, Bell 7th, Reddick 8th, Harvick 9th, and Kyle Busch rounds out your top 10. Ryan Blaney in 11th was able to rebound nicely. 12th, Matt DiBenedetto. 13th, Chris Buescher. 14th, Austin Dillon. 15th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 16th, Bubba Wallace. Chad Staten in 17th. Custer Newman 18th and 19th, and Eric Almirola rounds out the top 20. Here's some other notables like Kurt Busch, Chase Briscoe, Eric Jones finishes in 30th, and the rest of the drivers like McDowell, Suarez, Keselowski, and Bowman, they were all caught up in that big crash on the back straightaway. My thoughts on this race? I loved it. I loved this race. Now, again, before stage 3, I was going to say this was a good, solid race. Not many moments, but just solid racing. Then with all the action that took place in stage 3, it brought the number way up from really good to really great. So I really enjoyed this race, and next week we're going to go to another short track. I don't care what you say, I'm calling Richmond a short track, but it's going to be better because it's going to be taking place at the daytime. So we're going to see the cars slipping and sliding around. Should be a lot of fun. But that's going to conclude this episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. Guys, tell me in the comment section down below, what are your thoughts on this race? Did you like it? Did you not? But until next time, my name is Jet Kraus from MDK, and I'll see you guys next time.